Well, if you're looking for an iridescent hazmat suit, look number 27 is right here for you. But unless you keep bees, I really don't see a need to have a shape like this in your collection because it's just so unbelievably unflattering. Hello my friends, if you've been keeping up with Fashion Week in Paris, I'm sure you know that Hermes just presented their latest Spring-Summer 22 collection this past weekend, and I got quite a few requests to review the show, but honestly I wasn't sure if I was going to do it, or at least not yet, because I know that we'll all grow grey by the time any of these pieces hit stores. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized how right you were to talk about this sooner rather than later. Just in case there is something that catches your eye, you have the chance and the time to speak to your home store about potentially pre-ordering it. So if you'd like to sit back and chat about everything that Hermes has in store for us for spring-summer, then please be sure to give this video a thumbs up and keep on watching. If there is anything that stands out to you from this show, make sure you take a screenshot of it and send it to your store to see if it's something that could potentially be pre-ordered for you, because I know a ton of pieces had to be cancelled these past couple of seasons that never made it into stores. So if there's something that you adore and you know you have to have, make sure you get on it as soon as you can. But without further ado, let's get into talking about the show, because it was actually a really great one, at least in my opinion. The collection itself, or I should say the show itself, was presented at an airport, so you're not going to be surprised to hear that it was very much inspired by the spirit of traveling and that freedom that comes with that. The collection itself was filled with pieces that are really comfortable, effortless. As I mentioned, freeing was definitely a reoccurring element, that were perfectly suited to fit the lifestyle of a true jet setter. But I think Hermes was really careful with not going overly casual and sort of floppy. We are talking about Hermes after all. But this joyful spirit of freedom created a collection that was a lot more laid back and contemporary even than what you would normally expect to see from Hermes. A lot of the pieces and silhouettes were actually inspired by athletic wear, so don't be shocked if we see some windbreakers, some sports bras, some joggers, and some mini shorts in this collection. And this I found to be as daring and essential a French luxury house like Hermes would get before we start getting into the territory of l'agent provocateur. Obviously, it is Hermes, but they were showing a lot more skin, I think, this year than they did in seasons prior. So if that is something that you enjoy, this collection will be right up your alley. But of course, since it's an Hermes show after all, no matter how playful some of the pieces might have been, they spared absolutely no expense and expertise when it came to using the most luxurious materials and fabrics and buttery soft lambskins with the most finesse details that no one, absolutely no one, could do on the level of Hermes. So it was an incredible collection. I think Hermes is definitely struggling with trying to go younger and younger each season while keeping their integrity and their heritage. But I think this season they found the perfect balance. So I'm really excited to start seeing more of these pieces in person at one point. But without further ado, let's get into some of these standout looks that, in my opinion, you definitely want to put on your radar. The first look that they opened the show with was this tone-on-tone, almost sort of a pantsuit. Obviously a much more modern and casual take of a pantsuit, which was in this incredibly interesting, I believe Hermes is calling it a rosewood beige color, which is the perfect description. I absolutely loved how warm yet neutral it was. I mean, when it comes to color, very few brands do color as well as Hermes does, whether we talk about bags and SLGs or ready to wear. Hermes Its color choices are just outstanding. So the color I loved. The silhouette itself, to me, was just a little bit, I don't want to say disappointing, but I just wasn't the biggest fan. I didn't like how the jacket came up all the way with this super high neck detail. I didn't find that wide leather panel in the front really flattering. And then the little metal studs made this look almost feel like an undergarment that a medieval knight would have worn underneath their armor. So I didn't like the look itself, but the color I loved. And then another interesting detail to point out, which actually will be a recurring element in this collection, is the belt fastening. So if you look close, this might be something that you've seen on an Hermes bag before, because this detail was actually inspired by a vintage Hermes bag that is no longer in production, called the Monsieur bag. This is a piece that Hermes hasn't had around for many years, and when I learned that this detail was actually inspired by that bag, I was quite surprised that the bag didn't make even just a really brief appearance on the runway. Perhaps they just took inspiration from it, but they decided that they're going to leave it where it belongs, which is the archive. But in case you have not seen this bag before, it was an extremely simple bucket bag. And when I'm talking about bucket bags, I'm not talking about modern bucket bags that you would see from Louis Vuitton or Chanel. This bag genuinely looked like a bucket. I mean, this is something that Hermes could have picked up from one of their stables and just covered it in leather. It looked like a bucket that much. But what made it more interesting is that it had these laser cut holes all around the side of the bag. Some bags had more holes than others. They had different iterations of this bag. Ones that were more casual, others that were a little bit more formal and heavyweight, that featured more leather. But the main characteristic that this bag was recognized for were these large laser cut holes on the top of the bag, which I know is a detail that is criticized to this day. I see comments every time this bag goes on sale at auctions or on the pre-loved market that people don't get why they would want to buy a bag that looks like someone just burned a hole through with a cigarette or with a moth just ate through the leather, which I get. It is quite an interesting look, but the idea wasn't to use this bag on its own as it is, but to actually complete the look with a matching silk scarf, because those holes were created so you could pull a silk scarf through the top of the bag and not only be able to tie the bag so it's not constantly open like a bucket, but to also add some more color and some definition to the bag itself. You guys know that I'm not the biggest fan of matching leather bags with silk scarves. If there was ever an Hermes bag that needed to be embellished with a silk scarf, the Monsieur bag was the one, because it was such a simple structure and idea that it really needed the finishing touch of a silk scarf. But we're not here to talk about the bag today, we're here discussing the look. But this is a detail that I wanted to point out to you because it's a reoccurring element that we'll see a lot more of in this collection. So the element I liked, it doesn't seem like that the bag is making a comeback. But this first look, while I love the color and the details, the whole thing together for me was just a little bit medieval-ish. This monochromatic black look, not surprisingly, was one of my favorites from the runway. I absolutely love this flowy shirt with the same metal studs that Hermes used throughout this entire collection. And then it was styled with this coordinated sort of kind of a sports bra slash a crop top with the matching pleated trousers. I think it was a beautiful set. I'm surprised that Hermes would launch a crop top and as many of them as they actually did this season. So that was a surprise to me. But I love the styling. I love this new Kelly belt that they are launching. They have been playing around with quite a few new belts that feature the Kelly padlock. So it's interesting to see a new one. It almost seems like a hard shell belt. Perhaps something along the lines of the Click H. I have not seen any close-ups. This is everything that I know that I'm seeing now. But I like the belt. I like the look. The shirt is beautiful. Is it outstanding? Is it something that you have to go to Hermes to buy? Not necessarily, but the stud details are definitely quite interesting to see. And then the next look right after it was a beautiful white dress that featured the same stud details. This I loved. It's really simple and all the emphasis is on the cut and the incredible stud details. Beautiful. I think just the way it falls and the way it's draped, it is quite utilitarian while also being feminine and really soft. It is the perfect balance, and of course it's very Hermes. Another standout piece that they ended up showing in quite a few different colors was this divine buttery soft calfskin dress, which I have no doubt they're not going to make many of. So if this is something that you'd like to pick up, make sure you get on pieces like this, because these are never going to hit stores, or at least not the majority of stores, because it's going to be so expensive. Not many stores will actually buy it for themselves at podium, but regardless, it is beautifully done. And what I found really special about this was really the way the two pieces were combined, because even though this technically is one piece, it's a dress, it consists of two really distinct elements. So on top you have this more traditional feminine leather bustier or corset, depending on what you want to call it. But then instead of it being styled with a pair of matching leather pants that are really tightly fitted or a pencil skirt, to stick with the theme of the collection of it being more casual and free-flowing, they ended up matching it with this oversized casual skirt that actually has a drawstring detail on it, which just makes it look that much more casual and laid back, which for me, it worked wonderfully. I love the styling. I love how they kept this look really, really simple. It is one of the best looks of the entire show. I'm not going to talk about the sandals. I don't think I've ever seen a pair of shoes on the Hermes runway that I could get on board with. The same goes for these. I know that these grumpy, frumpy grandpa shoes are a big trend these days, but unless you live in like a beach community where no one really cares about what they look like, I don't think that these shoes should be on anyone's wish list. But speaking of those frumpy shoes, this next look I wasn't going to mention because there wasn't really anything outstanding about it. It's basically a suede trench coat that is decorated with the same metal details and paneling as everything in this collection so far. But what stood out to me about the shoes this time is that they were actually styled with a pair of leather socks. I'm not sure if I've ever seen a pair of leather socks, and I've seen a lot, not only from Hermes, but also from other brands. But leather socks are kind of a new concept to me. Sock shoes, yes. Balenciaga started it, Hermes jumped on board too. But a pair of leather socks, that is quite interesting. I'm not sure what they would feel like or how comfortable they would be. And I'm not sure if this is something that Hermes would even release, or if this is something that was just created to complete the look on the runway. But it is a really interesting look. I don't know if I would style these socks with these shoes necessarily, but if they ever launch these, I would love to see them in person because they do look really, really interesting. This next dress is just giving me Catwoman vibes. It's beautiful. I love the fact that the dress was kept super simple. It all just comes down to the incredible quality and craftsmanship of how these large leather panels are put together. It's absolutely stunning, but the reason that this particular look stood out to me was actually the bracelet. So if you have a close look at this look, you can see that they used a new bracelet to complete this look, which is kind of reminiscent of the Kelly Gourmet, which is a bracelet that has been around for a couple of seasons now, but previously was only available in rose gold and yellow gold, and also I have to say in white gold too, so it essentially came in every single gold color that Hermes offers. But this is a new oversized blown up version of it, which seems like it's made of actual silver. Now, I'm usually not the biggest advocate of buying silver jewelry from Hermes, just because their pieces are so incredibly overpriced in silver that if you save up a little bit more money, you can actually buy yourself a solid gold piece that is not going to tarnish, that is not going to scratch, and it's going to last a lot longer in your collection. Unless you find pieces like this that are so powerful and that have so much statement to them, that if you wanted to buy this made of solid gold, it would cost you $100,000 easily. So I'm excited to see and learn more about this, but I do think that this is going to be a sellout piece. Another fabulous look that I would have loved individually the pieces, but together as a whole ensemble, it just works perfectly. It's young, but it's classy, it's elegant, it's Hermes. The jacket is quite special. It's essentially this cropped, straight cut jacket with some leather details on the collar, around the sleeves, and then the pockets. It's absolutely stunning. It does give you quite a bit of leather, but it's not going to set you back quite as much as an actual solid leather jacket would. And it does give a different facet to your collection. So if you're looking for a jacket like this, this is something that you might want to look into. I know that this is not something that I would even be able to try, because when it comes to Hermes jackets from their women's line, I try every season, and sometimes they do fit me in terms of the body, the size of the body, but one thing I can never get around is the sleeves, because their sleeves are notoriously short. And when it comes to a piece like this that is finished off with leather around the hams, there's no way that it could be adjusted or tweaked. So if I bought this, it would probably be a short-sleeved jacket on me, but obviously if you fit Hermes' sizing, I think this is going to be a beautiful piece. And then it was styled with a leather crop top and then a pair of really short, really tiny shorts that feature the same drawstring detail as the skirts did previously. I love it. Again, we have the leather socks, and looking at the detail shots, this is the first time that we're actually seeing a bag from Hermes in this show, but it's not a new bag. This is the so-called Mors de Bride bag, which launched, or I should say it was supposed to launch last year, but it has only just started hitting stores. But this is a bag that I absolutely love the look of, the idea of, the sound of. I have talked about it quite recently, but basically, long story short, this is a piece that pays homage to the brand's harness making heritage, with drawing not one or two, but several different elements from horse riding gear, from the way the shoulder strap is constructed, all the way to the focal point of this bag, what really makes it special, which is the jewel-like clasp, which actually draws inspiration from the bridle and the horse snaffle. The shape itself is quite simplistic, but really trendy these days. It's something that you could also find from a brand like the Row or Celine, but the reason you're going to get this from Hermes and not from another brand is because of the closure mechanism. I am personally a huge fan of this bag. I think it is not only incredibly trendy, these super thin bags that virtually have no dimension to them, but I think it's also a piece that you can use forever. It's just incredibly chic at the end of the day. Is it the most practical? Probably not, but I do love the way it looks, and I think it would be an incredibly special bag to have in your collection. If you're interested, these bags are currently in the mid €4,000 range, so that's kind of what you have to keep in mind if you'd like to add one of these bags to your collection. But it seems like it's not going anywhere, even though it's already in boutiques now, or should be in boutiques anytime now. It will be around for the next year or so. So two of the most eye-catching details for me so far from this show have been the Monsieur bag inspired keyholes and the drawstring detail, which we've seen a ton of, and there's a lot more to come. But then we'll move on to next to something that Hermes does every season, which is taking one of their iconic and beloved silk patterns and reinterpreting it into ready-to-wear as an actual pattern to be used on jackets and skirts and tops and cardigans. Last season Hermes used two prints actually. They used the Bride Gala print on some jackets, and then they also used a print called, I believe, the Zouave and Dragon print. While the print that they used for Spring Summer 22 that they pulled from the archive was the so-called Cliquette print, which I'm just going to put it out there, I'm not the biggest fan of. I liked it on a vintage scarf, but I feel like the way they adapted it looks just a little bit too tie-dye trendy for my liking. But this skirt is the perfect example of that, which is actually not a skirt, it's a pair of pants first that we have here with this bra. The bra I think looks cool. I think it would be beautiful under a really nice crisp white shirt, just to show a little bit of skin and a little bit of Hermes, but not go overboard. The pants, I don't like the cutoff. I think it's just a little bit too hippie for what I would like to see from Hermes. I actually think that the styling was much better on the second look, where the bra was plain and there was only the print on the pants. I still don't think that there was any need for the print to be on the pants. I think it would have looked so much more chic without it, with this incredible oversized shirt. The color is so divine that it doesn't really benefit from having the print on it. But if you love a pop of a pattern, this is something that you can expect to see. And I was just about to say that I'm sure we're going to get a bomber jacket with this print, and we sure do. We have a bomber jacket right here that the Hermes has been doing for a couple of seasons now, and each season they choose a different pattern to embellish it with. And as we are on this next look, let's get into talking about the other bag that was introduced on the runway. But unlike the Mors de Bride bag which we saw previously, this is a brand new shape, which is the so-called Maximors bag, which I'm sure would sound much more delicate and elegant said in French. But this is a new shape that is being introduced for the season, and I'm going to tell you that I absolutely love it. Now, there is nothing really unique about the shape itself. There are quite a few brands out there who have done this cylindrical shape for a bag. Louis Vuitton, Chanel, they have all been doing these for a little while. But personally, I cannot remember Hermes doing anything similar to this, and I absolutely loved it. It definitely reminded me slightly of the Lindy, which is a bag that I'm not the biggest fan of, because I just find all the different details going on way too overwhelming. But I actually thought that this, just because here the shape is unique, and other than that the focus is strictly on the handles and nothing else, it worked beautifully. So as I just gave it away, the other detail that makes this bag a little bit more unique is the horsebite inspired handle, because if you look at the handle, it is a solid metal handle. There is no leather, there is no leather attachment. What you have on top is made of solid metal, which is luxury being taken to the next level. If you're going to be paying Hermes prices, this is the level of attention and details that I expect. The bag so far I've only seen in one size, in Swift, but it has been shown in a plethora of different colors. I personally do think that this bag could do with a shoulder strap, because having the option of putting a shoulder strap on this bag would just make it so much more multifaceted, and it would mean that you can style it in a more casual fashion. I personally don't think that a bag like this handheld would look great with my proportions, but if it had a shoulder strap, I would have so many ideas on how to style it. Now, I have been trying to find more pictures. I zoomed in, I tried my best to figure it out, but to me so far it doesn't seem like that you can put a shoulder strap onto it, which is kind of a shame. As soon as I know for a fact whether you can or you cannot, I'll be sure to let you know. If you can, this bag is going on my wish list. If you cannot, I think it's going to be a skip for me. But if you do add it to your collection, I'll be eager to hear your review of it. Well, if you're looking for an iridescent hazmat suit, look number 27 is right here for you. But unless you keep bees, I really don't see a need to have a shape like this in your collection, because it's just so unbelievably unflattering and just drowning. It looks terrible, let's be honest. But at least it was styled with a Mors de Bride bag, which helps to make it look just a tiny bit more sleek and chic. It's trying its best, but I mean, there's only so much it can do. First of all, I just have to say that this whole look works as a whole for me. I love the trench coat. I think the color is divine. the coordinated set underneath it, I'm not the biggest fan of, but I think it was definitely elevated by the styling of this trench coat. The crop top with the pencil skirt is kind of Stella McCartney, maybe even Stella McCartney for Adidas to be honest, but it works because they styled it with this really lavish leather trench coat. But the reason I wanted to bring this look up is because of the bag. So we have another Mors de Bride bag here, but this time it's in canvas, which was not available previously. So far, I've only seen this bag in regular skin, in exotic skin. I think they're also planning on launching it, but I have not seen it in canvas. And this bag is not only in canvas, but you also have the detail of a card holder on the outside, which usually I wouldn't be a big fan of. Personally, I'm not the biggest fan of things like the cargo collection by Hermes, which I talked about recently. But on this bag, it works so incredibly well because the bag itself is quite simplistic. All the attention and all the details are on the jewel-like clasp on top. But other than that, the bag is super flat, it's super simple, it really has no dimension to it. And because the card holder is also quite flat, it just works really harmoniously together in my opinion. So if this is a detail that we'll be seeing a lot more of in the future, I'm excited. But this bag with this card holder detail makes it feel so much more fun and youthful than the way it looks in leather. I thought I loved it in leather, but I might love it even more in canvas with this card holder detail. This all-white boiler suit is by far the worst look of the show. There's just not one thing that I like about this. The shape is unflattering and it's overwhelming. The color doesn't work. The print with the cliquette print, how it's bleeding into the fabric, is not cute. This new bag that it's styled with, I'm not even going to talk about it because it's so basic that we don't have time to talk about it. Let's just move on. But there's just really not one thing about this look that I can comprehend why they would put this on the runway with such phenomenal pieces. I don't know how this made the cut, because unless you are doing some paintwork around your home, this is not a piece that you need to spend money on. This wrap coat, on the other hand, is everything that Hermes dreams are made of. If you're looking to invest in a ready-to-wear piece that you know is going to be a part of your collection forever, a classic, timeless piece that is not boring, this is the way to go. Hermes's jackets and coats are the pieces that you have to invest in, because this is something that you'll be able to pull out every single year and wear it, and it will never look redundant or repetitive, because there are so many incredible details about this. I mean, just looking at the shape, the cut, the feel. I haven't even touched this coat and I can already feel how incredibly soft it's going to be. Not to mention that you have that seasonal detail that is inspired by the keyhole on bags. And it even has these really interesting sort of ribbon details on the sleeves, which I cannot zoom in close enough to see exactly what they are. But I mean, they could put the free ribbon that comes on your Hermes packaging on this, and this coat would still look like $1,000,000. This, I mean, is just perfection. And this is it, my friends. This completes my review of the new Spring Summer 22 collection from Hermes. I hope you enjoyed this. Please let me know your thoughts on the collection and what pieces stood out to you. Is there anything that you're going to add to your wish list? Is there anything that you're going to take a step further and even ask about pre-ordering? I would love to know. But for now, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you being here, and I hope to see you back here with a new video really, really soon. Bye.